Okay, we're live. Today's Thursday, what is today? May 14th?
May 14th.
May 14th. And you're tuned into NEZ SEZ, a place where musicians can come together and inspire each other to play more guitar. Thanks all for being here. We have a very special show tonight. My name is David Nesdahl, and this is my co-host, Ty Price. Hey, Ty, how you doing?
Hey, Dave. Happy to be here.
Yeah, same here.
Happy Thursday.
It is a happy Thursday. Absolutely. So who do we have with us here tonight, Ty?
Well, tonight, Dave, we're going to speak to two very knowledgeable, very experienced working guitar players. Your friend Jim Moran and my good friend Jay Ellis. Tonight, we're going to have a robust conversation talking about music and guitars and amps and gig rigs and playing live and preparing for gigs. And so we're so happy that both of these gentlemen agreed to join us tonight.
Absolutely.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. So let me just start talking a little bit about Jim. I've known Jim Moran probably just over 30 years. We met at an open mic jam.
I'm having trouble hearing Dave.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me, Jim? Tell Jim to go out and come back in.
Hey, Jim, can you pop out and pop back in?
Yeah. What do I just go back to the?
Just leave the studio on the bottom and come right back in. Yeah.
Yep. There we go.
Well, while we're waiting, why don't you talk about Jay?
Yeah, I'm happy to introduce my friend Jay. I've known Jay a long time. He's a great guitar player, always a consummate professional. He's got an awful lot of performance experience and a really deep song repertoire. Jay and I were talking the other day. We were trying to figure out how many times Jay and I have been together and played music together. And we have been in the same room playing music together at least 1,000 times, probably on the conservative side. And other musicians are in the room. My friend Jay always has the best tone in the room. He's always that guitar player that the tone just seems to be so effortless. And Jay, thanks a million for being here with us.
Thanks for that introduction. Thanks for having me, man. You're too kind.
Yeah, it was great having you here. So my friend Jim Moran, like I was saying before, Jim, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you fine now.
Okay. So we've known each other probably just over 30 years. We met at an open mic jam on the South Shore of Long Island. When I first saw Jim play, my jaw dropped because he is, even back then, he was an amazing guitar player. I always looked up to him as a guitar player. Jim probably knows every song known to man. Honestly, you name a song and he'll start playing it, and he'll drive the bus with he'll drive the band bus, and everyone will know the song before the first verse is over because Jim is that good. He plays probably 5 to 6 nights a week. And he's been doing that most of his life, most of his adult life. And he's been on numerous albums, numerous recordings. He's played with the likes of many celebrity musicians. Jim, what just name a couple.
Richie Cannata. I got to play with John Stamos, Stanley Jordan, Julio Fernandez from Spyro Gyra, a lot of John Papa from what's the harmonica player? What was the band it is?
I don't remember, but the '90s band.
Yeah,
Blues Traveler. That's it, Blues Traveler.
Right, yeah. And John Mayer, he played through my rig a couple of times. So
very cool.
Different people, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, very cool. So welcome aboard, Jim.
Oh, thank you.
So the premise tonight, I think we're going to be talking gear. And what I mean by the things we'll be talking about, along with how these guys got started and what they've done and how they pursue their music and everything like that. Basically, we're going to talk about common gear. And what I mean by common gear is just gear that you could buy at Guitar Center or Sam Ash or your local music store versus high-end boutique gear, which you can't get in most stores? And does it accomplish the same thing? So, and we'll have the chat open up, and we'll discuss it with the chat as well. So, Ty, why don't you open this up?
Well, why don't we start by saying hello to some people that have already joined us, and people continue to roll in. Mike Neese is here. Ben Coombs, always here, and we thank you, Ben, for always being with us week in and week out. Mr. Richard Nesdahl is here.
Hey, Dad. Oh, by the way, my father says hi, Jim.
Oh, hi, Richard.
Vinny 5150 is here. Sean Zimmerman, Thomas Santiago, one of my newest Facebook friends, is here. The Chad is here. Guitar Man 45, Hugh Caldwell. Hello, Hugh. Terry Hines is here. Mention Sean and BB Ninja. Thank you for joining us. Johnny Bean is here. Hey, Johnny. Bent Tom is here. John BL 5150 is here. Hey, John. Six String Brian is here, and people continue to roll in. Thank you for thanks for joining us, everyone.
Yeah.
So,
thank you so much.
So we began the show by saying we've got two very knowledgeable, very experienced, hardworking, busy guitar players, and we're all at home. And
that's right.
Even playing field, right?
Nobody is nobody's out and about right now, and hope that'll change soon when it's safe for everybody. But so since you've been home, and since you haven't been packing up your gear and heading out and playing a variety of different types of gigs, how have you guys been occupying yourself in this COVID-19 environment?
I've been practicing a lot, and just I've been doing some Facebook Live videos, and just doing some one-off videos, and playing along with tracks, and trying to fulfill things on the bucket list, I guess, like songs that you haven't worked on or you've been meaning to get to, and just doing things that, tying up the loose ends, right?
Yeah.
Kind of same here, man. Just working on some tunes that some projects we're getting started on before all this shut down. Trying to work through that list, polish up on some things I'd forgotten. Honestly, go back and listen a little more intently at some things that I probably missed the first time around. Try to get a little sharper with some things, and honestly, play as loud as I can when I'm not bothering the house.
You mean like I'm about to?
Yeah.
Mike Neese, I didn't forget. I will play this for you in a couple minutes. We'll crank up the amp and let you hear what this sounds like.
So that's an interesting thought. So, Jay, Jim, both of you got these big, huge song lists that you manage and that you have under your fingers and that you play. When you're taking a break this long, do you have to go back? Do you have to go back and remind yourself, or have you played those songs thousands of times that they couldn't leave you if they wanted to?
Well, I go back, and I just, what I've been doing a lot is, putting on YouTube and just like trying to hit random songs as they come up. And, I got an iPod. I got probably about 11,000, 12,000 songs or something in there. And just trying to find new songs to add to the shows, and new ideas. Just trying to keep it fresh.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd say for me, I've tried to learn some new things that maybe in the past I didn't feel like, it's a lot to tackle. I don't want to tackle it. I've got a buddy that's written a few songs. He's asked me to take a listen and try to come up with some stuff. So I've worked on that a little bit. And then honestly, I bought one of these Sonos Bluetooth speakers that gets pretty loud. And so I'm able to turn it up pretty high and play along with it in a good volume, because I don't have a really ideal home setup. So I'm basically playing through what I would play through live, and allows me to get a little volume, feel like I'm kind of in a big room, and have some fun.
Cool.
Good.
Yeah, very cool. Jay, let me ask you this. Let's start from the beginning for just a second. What made you decide to start playing guitar? Like, what was it that you know?
A combination of things. So my parents I took piano lessons when I was, I think, 6 or 7, 5, 6, somewhere in there. I started out taking piano, and I'll be honest, like pretty much every kid that's 5, 6 years old trying to play baseball or basketball or football, going to piano lessons isn't the coolest thing in the world. And so as I got more into music, I did piano for a while, then stopped, then got into actually in the band in school, and was playing the saxophone, and but loved rock music, wanted to play the guitar, loved rock music, wanted to play some of the things that I heard. And I guess probably when I was 12, 13, somewhere in there, got my parents to buy me kind of an Ibanez starter guitar with a little red Gorilla amp.
Yeah.
For my birthday. And, just beat on it, or, as much as I could, played as off and on as much as I could for a few years, and guess gradually got better, and then got a little bit better gear, and, just enjoy it, man. Like playing what I hear, I guess.
Nice. Can you remember the first song you learned?
That's a good question, man. Honestly, I remember one of the first songs I learned that I actually could play that was like a chord or a bar chord or a power chord was Talk Dirty to Me by Poison.
Wow.
I'm slightly embarrassed.
Oh my God. That's insane. My first song was House of the Rising Sun. Jeez. You're like big time.
Yeah. I think everybody kind of learns like the Mary Had a Little Lamb, things like that. I didn't have an instructor, so I just did, tried to watch MTV, VH1, and then had a couple of older friends that played, picked up a few things here and there from them, then got I think it was called Mel Bay's Handbook or something like that.
Sure, Mel Bay Book 1, the blue book.
Learn chord shapes there, things like that. Back before YouTube and all, it's a lot easier now to get some instruction. So, but yeah.
How about you, Jim? The very beginnings. What made you start playing guitar?
The Beatles. Watching the Beatles, actually seeing John Lennon and Chuck Berry playing together on the Mike Douglas show, and that's like going back to 1972 or something like that. I think I was about 5, and I saw Chuck Berry, and I said, "Man, that's what I want to do," and that's where it started. And I started taking lessons. I started taking lessons when I was like 12, and got my first electric when I was about 13. And then I started studying, and eventually went to school for it. Took music theory in high school, and went from there. And got in playing in bands and bars, and started doing weddings and club dates and all kinds of different jobs throughout the years, and doing festivals, working with blues bands and all kinds of fun stuff along the way, Yep.
Nice. Very good. Very cool. In the chat, if anyone has any questions for Jay or Jim, please feel free. I can relay them, or I'll put them up on the screen. And there we go. Jay, Ty, what do you got?
So Jay, what do you remember what was the first pro level guitar you took out and gigged with? Do you remember? I know you've been through knowing you
Yeah.
so well. I know you've been through everything. So,
Yeah,
do you
I
remember
mean-
what the first one is? What that first rig was?
So I had just like a Gibson acoustic, a Taylor acoustic, where we used to do some acoustic gigs. But the first like real electric guitar, real tube amp, real thing, I bought it was like a Ibanez AR 2000 Prestige, that Santana looking guitar,
Yeah.
double horn, kind of Les Paul DNA.
Yeah.
I played some with that, and then I got a G&L, the Telly copy with 2 humbuckers.
Nice, an ASAT.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and got it, and then I think the next one, man, is honestly, Ty, after you got that first PRS, I got motivated and bought that McCarty.
Yeah.
And I probably did as many gigs with that McCarty as any guitar I've ever had.
That's great.
Those are great guitars. Really great guitars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, that's what he builds them for, to take them out. And he says he builds things for guys to go out and play. And that's always been my experience with that brand.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Very reliable, very durable. How about you, Jim? Do you remember that? Do you remember that first pro level guitar you went out and played live?
Yeah, Gibson SG. It was an off-white SG I bought for like about $500 in about, I guess, around 1986 or so. I bought that, and I did my first professional jobs on that guitar. Yeah, and then I got a Les Paul after that, and then moved on to, I got into Stratocasters. I got my first Strat. It was a Japanese Strat. It wasn't really a good one. And then I got a couple of other different Strats, and then I came across this 96 Japanese Strat 57 reissue, and that's been my number one guitar since.
So guys, when you see this guitar, you're going to think it's a real 1954 or 55, anywhere in that area, because all of the dirt and grime and relicking that you see on it is for real. It's not like someone made this thing look like an old guitar. It looks like an old guitar.
There you
It's
go.
ridiculous. It's crazy.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Very cool.
Get a little bit in the neck.
That's what I call a gigged guitar.
Yeah. Yeah. So playing as many gigs as you both have played, knowing how to play as many songs as you know how to play in varying styles, and you've got all these, you've got a ton of performance experience. How has the level of experience changed your perception of what gear you choose, or has it? How has your taste in gear selection, how has it changed, evolved with your experience?
Well, with, for different jobs, different guitars, if I'm doing, if I was doing something with like a club date band, I definitely like Strats, because Strats, I can do a lot of different material on them, and the different tones and the five position switch, I can cover a lot of ground on a lot of different tones and stuff like that. So it depends upon the music and the material that I got to play for the job that I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say for me, the biggest thing, honestly, is I've had some guitars that were pretty daggone heavy, and you do a gig for 4 hours, and the older I get, I can't do it as well. So having a little bit lighter, more manageable guitar has been something I've kind of grown and learned, I guess, as we've done this. And then the other thing I would say for me, most of what I do is rock. And, I used to be pretty into like Swiss Army knife amps that did a little bit of everything. And I've kind of learned to if I got one channel that's really good, I can use my volume to get it to pretty much anything else I want to do. Volume on the guitar, and can get clean enough for most gigs for what we do. So that's probably the two big things for me.
And staying in tune.
Yeah. Make sure that nut is well greased and open.
I think I'm a little bit neurotic about tuning my guitar.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. I think we all should be.
I'm not going to name the brand. He has got the most ridiculous. I'm not going to name the brand, but he has got I'm sure it's amazing. I'm sure it's functional. He's got the most amazing, most intricate, most complicated tuner known to man. But he claims he can hear a difference. And
so, what is it? A Peterson strobe tuner, like the old style?
It's in that vein.
It's that Sonic Research strobe tuner. I found it on like a Facebook ad, and I think it's fairly popular now because it's a reasonably priced entry into a strobe tuner.
Well, if you know how to read one of those, it's probably the best way to keep your guitar in tune.
I was just saying, it's real easy once you get your head around it. You're not you're looking for the counterclockwise or clockwise on the lights, and it's just pretty easy. When they stop moving, you're good.
Yeah.
And
but does it have the actual string name on it? Because if you're in E flat and you want to be in E, but you think you're in E,
it throws the string name up as
good.
well.
Good.
Yeah.
That makes it easy.
Yeah.
Mike Neese asked you guys, do you like to do your own setups and so forth, or do you have someone else do them for you?
I have somebody else do them for me. Yeah, it's easier for me.
I've typically done my own. I've actually had Ty Price do a couple for me over the years.
Nice.
Cheers.
I've had Dave do a couple for me too.
Yeah. Ty, how about you? I know the answer, but
I have this guy on Long Island set my guitars up now.
I heard his name is the Guitar Whisperer.
I'm gonna need to get his number.
It's number 4. I'll give you my number afterwards. Those of you who want your guitars professionally set up, don't go to me. No, I'm just kidding. I am the Guitar Whisperer. The email address, the website is theguitarwhisperer.guru. Go to the comment section. Let me know what you're looking for. Give me your number and your email, and I'll get back to you with pricing and all that jazz. So check that out. And while you're at it, if anyone in the chat is feeling saucy, you can check out the virtual tip jar, which is PayPal at dnrwb5150 at AOL.com, and the same at Venmo dnrwb5150 at AOL.com. Now, this is not a mandatory thing, but if you feel gracious and you want to throw a couple bucks in the till, we would really appreciate that. It helps pay for this program. That being said, again, thanks for everyone to show up today.
So you guys are fair to say old school guys. You know what you like in terms of guitars. What about the amp side? Are you both still using tube amps? Have you migrated into the digital world at all? What's happening with you these days on amplifiers?
Well, with me, I'm old school. I like old tube amplifiers. And when I record, though, I do like some of the built-in stuff, some of the plugins are pretty cool, and they come pretty close. And it's a lot easier because all you got to do is put a set of phones on and plug your guitar in, and you're in. So you don't have to bother with the miking and everything else. Depending what I'm doing though. Like if I want something to sound like really old school, I'll mic an amp, put a 57 in front of it and let it go,
I'm a tube amp all the way guy, at least for now. I haven't migrated to anything digitally, but I'm interested. Particularly the Kemper offering. It seems more user friendly in terms of the knobs and buttons make a little more sense to me. I guess there's more of a tactile. You look at it, you see the knob, you turn it.
The only problem I have with the Kemper, I mean, the Kemper is great. Don't get me wrong. But the problem I have with the Kemper is when you're making your profile, you're making it at a certain volume, and your profile sounds great. But the minute you change that volume, say you do that at a certain volume when you're doing it at home and you make the profiles, you take that on a gig and you turn the volume up, it's gone. That profile is gone. It's not going to sound the same anymore. It's not going to sound the same with the volume louder. It's going to screw up the whole profile, and that's the only bad thing with the Kemper.
In my experience, because there have been instances where I have only had a digital choice. I didn't have the option to take a real amp onto the stage. The way that there is a cheat around that, and it's to avoid, the rig volume feature of the Kemper and only use the master volume. And then when you're setting up performances, you're ensuring that those rig volumes are all in unity as you go through your banks, so that if you do use a master volume, then your levels are more consistent. But I'm like y'all. I would always prefer to use a tube amp first, but sometimes we can't. So
yeah.
I've had to use a Sans amp a couple of times, like back in the day. I worked for a guy and he wanted everybody to go through the board. So I borrowed a Sans amp off a friend of mine, and it was, as long as I had a monitor send back, it was fine. I had no problems with it. But that's the closest I've done to like amp modeling or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and BV points out that you can profile at different volumes too, and you can fine tune each profile, and that's also correct.
Yeah, but I mean, on the fly, it's not easy to do on the fly. Like if you're on a gig, it's not easy to do.
Too much thinking.
Well, the scariest thing is when you take something like that into a gig, and front of house isn't sure what to do with it, and they're not sure how much output they want to see coming from the unit. That's always kind of a scary thing, because if they had allowed you to bring in a cabinet and let you put a 57 in front of it, they'd know how to handle that. But
yes.
For whatever reason, more and more venues are taking that off the table. So, So with that in mind, have over the years, I'm going to ask you somewhat of a rhetorical question. Over the years, have your rigs gotten smaller, more compact as a result of, quieter stages and so forth?
Yeah, mine has definitely gotten a lot smaller. That's for sure. I mean, I started out, I was using Basemans and super reverbs and 410 amplifiers and stuff like that. And then as I went down, I started, like you play smaller clubs and restaurants, you're not going to want to, haul a super reverb, a 410 super reverb into a tiny little restaurant. It's just ridiculous. So I would get into like using Blues Juniors and stuff like that, and smaller amplifiers, and as small as I can make them go, that's definitely what I like the best.
What's really screwy, Jim, is when a deluxe reverb reissue is too loud for a club.
Yeah.
It's crazy, right? You bring a deluxe reverb and they say you're too loud.
Yeah.
Really?
And you're like,
how can that be?
Thank God they didn't accidentally book a metal band in here or something.
Yeah.
What about you, Jay? Smaller?
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but I would say if anything, I've always kind of been a head and cabinet guy. And I guess over the years, it's even become a little more practical just from the standpoint of instead of carrying one super heavy piece of gear, I'm carrying two slightly lighter pieces of gear in and out. So it's a little easier from a mobility standpoint. And then also to mix and match different things. If you have a cabinet you really like, you can use a bunch of different heads with it, you know, and you've made the investment in the speakers and you've got that, and you can pair it with different heads. I would say the biggest thing is the wattage of the heads. You know, master volumes have gone from not existing to better to now very good, and in some cases great. And I would say if anything, I'm a little lower wattage now than I was for a while. A little more
So
control.
what is your go-to small amp now?
I wouldn't say it's a super small amp, but the behind me that Bogner, I just got it right when things were shutting down. It's that Ecstasy 3534, and it's got basically channel gain, channel volume, and then on the back it's got a return master volume on the basically after the loop, so I can run that thing really quiet. I mean, I'm basically at conversation volume at 11 o'clock on the volume, which is pretty good for a 35, 40 watt tube amp. And really, the taper on the volume pot is very usable for small clubs. And then I've got a third power that they use a channel volume and a master volume. They have a hybrid master. I don't really know the science behind it, but there's like basically a second volume for the overall master volume. And I found it to be very usable in every setting as well. Loud to very, very quiet, conversational quiet. Nothing sounds as good at that volume, you know, of course, but it works.
You know, it's kind of freaky how in the different markets, like New York City, it's all 112 combo. You put your guitar on your back, your pedal board in one hand, your 112 combo, and in other markets, you could still use a head and cabinet and get away with it. New York City, you can't really get away with that.
Yeah.
If they let you in the door with a head and cabinet. So, I mean, as soon as you pull that out of the trailer, you're too loud, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
It's you know, it's crazy because, you know, in New York City, you bring a 212 cabinet and a head. The door guy who, you know, it's just the door guy. You're not going to be loud, are you? I haven't even plugged in, man. You don't even know me. Why are you even in my face?
Yeah, it happens. It happens in the Southeast as well. You know, you're back in the band trailer to the load-in dock, and they see heads and cabs and road cases come off, and you're already too loud.
Yep.
Yep.
And they've already made up their mind that they're not hiring you again. You'll play tonight, but they're never hiring you again.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, in situations like that, you're spending the rest of your gig, you know, working for your next one, which is really where your head shouldn't be. You know, at that point, and at least in this part of the country, there is I don't think I'm exaggerating at all. I think there's a great push to kind of quiet these stages down, and give more control over every master, you know, to front of house with digital solutions. And, you know, we talked to Larry Mitchell a few weeks ago, and he was very articulate as to why in which he chose the platforms he chose. And then, you know, actually, you know, on our show, encouraged other players to kind of look into that, because he, you know, that's a trend that he felt was going to continue. So,
yeah.
And it's going to continue for him. You know, I mean, when you hear him play through a Fractal AX8, you're really, first of all, you think it's a full rig behind him. It's amazing. He's just got a great ear and a great mind for that, for programming that stuff. And he really makes it work for him. You really think it's a tube amp behind him. It's amazing. I mean, if you've known Larry Mitchell from the very early beginnings, he's a boogie guy. He's had a quad preamp and studio preamps, and, you know, and tri-axes and all that stuff, all, you know, with 412 cabinets for quite a few years, and then you listen to his tone now, and it sounds exactly the same as it did back then.
Yeah, great player.
Yeah.
No question. But I think we would all agree it'd be best if we could always take a, tried and true amplifier to a gig. So what about pedal boards? I mean, are you guys building pedal boards? Do you have two? Do you have one for this, footprint and one for this footprint, or do you generally customize, a smaller board for each gig? How do you handle pedals?
Before Jim shows his pedal board, I will say that Jim and I have the same guy build our pedal boards, and when you see this board, you're going to know why. It's a great thing.
Well, what do you call it? Well, what I've been doing though is I have that pedal board, but I have that apart.
Okay.
And what was happening was, because of the size of it, on stages like at the bitter end and stuff like that, I'd have people trouncing all over it. You know what I mean? Because it just takes up a lot of room, especially when you got to keep some feet apart. So I started using this. I just use a real basic BCB 6.
Okay.
Yeah, something like this, and just real simple, real. Just kind of smack it down on the ground and open the case and run the wires and real simple.
So are you still using a switcher? Is that white thing in there? Is that a switcher for the pedals?
No, the white thing is a JHS Milkman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which
nice.
is
compressor.
It works like an EP booster and a slapback reverb, like a delay, but more slappy delay. Like old school rockabilly type of thing. So, and most of my pedals I like, like a real old school like MXR, Micro Chorus, and Phase 90, and I don't have reverb in my amp, so I use a Holy Grail, the Nano, which I think is a great reverb. I love that reverb, and I have a Keeley modded, like a copy of a Keeley modded Ibanez Tube Screamer in here as well. So that's pretty much, in a tuner I don't have a fancy tuner. I use a Boss chromatic tuner. It's it's close enough for me. I mean, the Peterson I have a problem with because I wear glasses, and for some reason the slot machine effect is just like on the fly. It looks like a slot machine, and I'm like, I just want two lights that go bing, bing.
I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, the easier the better, and that just proves the common gear versus the boutique gear, and the common gear works just as good.
That's right.
Stuff you can get at Guitar Center, and it works for Jim. It just works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, it's going to be all about the player anyway, right? It's going to be how the player utilizes the gear. BV says third powers are great. Delana's a very smart cookie. They do a great pedal version of the Mostorian pedal. I know you're a heavy third power user, Jay. Have you ever heard of that?
I'm not familiar with that. I have a Citizen. I bought a Citizen Gain spring reverb, and I just loved it. It was great. And then I saw a demo video of the kitchen sink, and I'm like, man, that's like having a Citizen Gain. And then it's got a sweepable clean channel that goes from kind of like a Vox clean, where you actually have a bright switch engaged. You get that little top boost, I don't really call it dirt, but, just dirty it up a little bit, and then you can sweep it to a Fender clean. And then it's got a switchable gain boost and a second master volume. And it's just a very usable gigging amp for the things that I do. It's like it lets me do everything I need to do. And that's even without ever really using the clean side. But the two different gains and the volume lets me do, solo boost, any gain boost, a low just kind of crunch. Those things are great. yeah, I hope they get in circulation more, and there's more of them out there, and people find out about them because they really are good pieces of gear.
Yeah, I haven't seen third power amps up here in New York at all, and I've heard of them. I think I've heard them, and I've heard of them, and they seem to be fantastic amps, very versatile. But I've yet to see one up here.
Yeah, and I had never seen one in person. I just, on the different forums, Gear Page, Rig Talk, Groom Noodlers, hear people talk about them and they post videos, and you're like, wow, that's. And then some of the obviously recording on YouTube and playing it over like a iPhone recording, you're not gonna get the complete authenticity of the amp. But some of these guys really know how to record these things. You get a pretty good idea of what the amp sounds like, and it just. And then Delana does a video of the kitchen sink at one of the NAMM shows, and the tone is just glorious. And I'm like, sold, got to buy it. And so I basically went on the hunt for a used one. That's the other thing, man. If I can buy it used and save $1, I'll buy it used and save $1 if I can. So I kind of waited until I found one, and I jumped on it when I had the opportunity.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, good stuff.
So if you had to grab a guitar and an amp tonight, what do you take out? If you had to grab something to go out on a gig with tonight, what do you do?
Me, I grabbed this guy.
Yep.
And I have a little amp that was built by Jack Cavallo. It's called a Blues Senior, which is like a 40-watt. It's the same size. It's built in a Blues Junior size cabinet, and it's a 40-watt amp with a lot of headroom.
Mm-hmm. Now, Jack Cavalowitz, our friend Jack Cavalowitz is a boutique amp maker. He does he does all kinds of amps. He'll do Fender style amps and Dumble style amps. But his newest thing is this Blues Senior, and that's what I have here. The box that I have mine in is a slightly larger, like a 50s Tweed Deluxe size, 112, and it's a 40-watt, between 30 and 40-watt amp with 4 EL84s.
That's the later ones he came out with.
Yeah, I chose the EL84s because I kind of like the shimmer and the clean versus the the in your face of the 6V6s.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I got the 6V6s in mine. I like them. They cut really nice. I mean, they're definitely very true to the old school Fender tone. That's for sure.
Yeah. Here's a little. This is how it sounds clean. I don't know if this is loud enough.
Yeah.
Well, minus the tremolo.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, sounds great.
And I'm using the Boonar. It's like the Benson Echo Rec type pedal, the Boonar Echo Rex. So, and there's reverb on the amplifier.
Yeah.
So that's the clean sound. It's a wonderful platform to put pedals on.
Yeah.
What do you carry out with you tonight, Jay? If you're heading out tonight?
Honestly, because I've got more time on the third power than I do the Bogner, I would probably, even though the Bogner's lighter, easier to move, everything, I'd probably take the third power just out of comfort. And no one, it's been there, done that for me. So I take it in the head, and then I would probably take, I just got this a few weeks ago, but I would take, I don't know if you guys can see that.
Oh, that's a beauty.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Nags Kanai. I told Ty this. The guitar just feels like it was built for me. I can't explain it any other way. It just, when I put it in my hands, it feels right. It's not too heavy. It's got the right amount of bite and attack that I want. The volume pots are tapered, comfortable for me. Everything's where I want it to be, and it sits comfortably on me, when I'm standing up playing. So it just, it's not going to do super clean, but I don't really need that anyway. So
Sean Zimmerman, just 6V6 tubes are the smaller tubes. The 6L6s are the larger ones. Two 6V6 tubes are going to be about 20 watts, whereas two 6L6 tubes are going to be about 40 to 50 watts.
Yeah, we were talking about 84s a minute ago. I was never big on 84s in amps for me. And I know, I'm sorry, all you Vox guys out there. Sorry about that, but it was not. It was never. That was never a voice for me. And then I got a really small. Hang on, I don't know if I can reach this. I got a really small gigging amp that happened to have some 84s in it, and it is a mean sounding amp, and it's really small and it's light. It's one of these little Friedman PT20s. I've got a bunch of different types of gigs on that amp. Single channel amp. This is before Friedman was putting different switches and that type of thing on it. That's got a very low serial on it, and it changed everything I thought I knew about an EL84 amp. Just in a really small 20 watt package that sounds huge. I mean, I've run it through single 12s, 212s, 412s. It's great amp. So you never really know until you take these things out and play them. And what do they sound like in a mix, right? Because it might sound great in your room, but then you take it out somewhere. What's it sound like when you actually take it out with a band, and how does it sit? So I know what you mean. I mean, normally I'm not a Vox guy either, and an EL84s in Vox amps sound a certain way, but when you put EL84s in a Fender circuit, it sounds great. It really does. It sounds a bit different. You still have that Voxy shimmer, but you don't have the Voxy sound. Well, to me, what you were playing sounds great. What
Vox
you were doing
amps,
sounds great.
Thank you. Vox amps to me sound very square, very boxy, where this is an open sounding amplifier. It's just very breathy, very open, but it has the shimmer of a Vox because of the EL84s. And like I said, before I got this amplifier, I didn't think I'd like it. I was like, well, cool, EL84s, but I think I want 6V6s because that's what I know. That's what my ears know. And then my buddy Dennis got one of these with EL84s in it, and I was like, why doesn't that not sound like EL84s to me? And then he taught me. He was like, yes, it does sound like EL84s, but in a Fender circuit. So it's this instead of what you think a Vox is going to sound like. They're going to sound like this. Mm-hmm. And that's when I was like, getting EL84s. They're great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it completely changed everything I thought I knew about them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So BV says that Third Power's getting ready to release some new amps soon, and they're really good. Sean says he wants a small amp for a bedroom, but I'd like a single-ended Class A amp. But they don't make any with enough gain. Most are two EL84s or two 6V6s bias Class AB. Any ideas?
Well, Sean, the easy fix for that is get the amp that you like and just get yourself a good overdrive pedal. It'll have plenty of gain, and you can keep the amp at a low volume, and it should still work nicely and still sound nicely. Just put a good overdrive pedal in front of it. That's what I'm doing. Mike Neese wanted to hear this opened up a bit, and I'm gonna play a solo line with. I have actually 5 overdrive pedals sitting here, but I'm gonna play through a J Rocket Dude pedal, which is kind of their their Dumble. Forgive me, this may get loud. Sounds, it just,
That's a killer overdrive.
Sounds great,
it
Dave.
really sounds good. And with a little bit of delay on, if you play sloppy like I do, makes it all better. So check this out. Like that. Sorry about the mistakes, guys.
Sounds great.
But the sound is there.
You're forgiven.
William Errol DeBose, U.S. Air Force retired. Thank you for your service, sir. Says, I've just purchased a vintage Robin Ranger, and it's on its way. Hugh Caldwell has a question for both Jay and Jim. What guitar player has been the most influential on you guys?
I'd say probably from back in the day, George Harrison in the beginning. That very beginning. And then probably Clapton, Duane Allman, Hendrix, and a couple of jazz guys, Wes Montgomery and George Benson.
Mm-hmm.
Guys like that,
Yep. Jay?
Eddie Van Halen, probably 1A.
Thank God.
Jimi Hendrix probably 1B for me. I got a RU Experience record from my uncle, and that was probably my first real time hearing Jimi Hendrix play. And then I'm like, I didn't know a ton about him. Look up the year the album came out, and I'm like, wow, like how far ahead of the time that was, and pretty blown away. Still am today.
Yeah, that's amazing stuff. I always, my favorite was always, I always liked Band of Gypsies. It was always one of my favorites.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, me too. Me too. So much you can take away as a player from Hendrix, aside from the obvious, aside from the compositions and how he structured things, but the intensity that he played with, the note choice, the embellishment around chords, how he used chord extensions in composition. So much you can take away from such a short career, really.
He was so knowledgeable.
And I lost you guys for a second there, but I don't know if you mentioned, it's just the phrasing. And it was the first time I had heard just somebody just ripping it on the guitar, man. Like it what a song could be and how centered around the guitar it could be and still be so melodic was visionary for me.
Yeah. I mean, when I heard Hendrix, I thought he just had a really
Then Ed just went to a whole new level.
Yeah. Yeah. He just had a cool, orchestral way of approaching, of playing.
He made a trio sound super
huge.
big.
Yeah.
Like a 5-piece band or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Incredible.
What
He'll
about
always be.
What about today? What players today inspire you?
I like one of my favorite guys. I like Kev Moe, believe it or not. I really like the way he plays.
Sure.
I like his approach on the slide. And there's a couple of blues guys that I like too. He just passed away. I used to like Charlie Beta from Little Charlie and the Nightcats, Ronnie Earl, and Duke Robillard, another guy from today that I like as well.
Jay?
So for whatever reason, I've lost Jim's audio, but I would say for me, probably, Slash, important player. John Mayer, important player to me. Still Jimi Hendrix, still Ed. When I listen to those records, man, that stuff still stands the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm drawing a blank on anybody else. But
So Jay, just pop out real quick and pop back in, and you should be able to hear Jim.
Okay.
We've got a few more people that have come in, Dave. Let's say hello to Bry the Sign Guy.
Yeah.
He's here. Gabriel Tone Guitars is here. Glad you gentlemen could join us tonight. My daughter Emma is here. Hello, Emma.
Hey, Emma.
Hey, Emma.
Mike Neese says Johnny Highland is great. He can play anything as well. Thank you for bringing that up. Just to let everyone know, we're going to have Johnny Highland here this coming Monday on the 18th. I think it's the 18th, Monday night, 8 p.m.
Wow, that's cool. He's a great player.
Johnny Highland will be our guest this coming Monday.
Yeah, on a special Monday night broadcast.
And then next Thursday, we have Andy Alador, the great guitar player, Jimi Hendrix style, Stevie Ray Vaughan style, his own style, the author of the new book, Texas Flood, a story of Stevie Ray Vaughan.
I got a copy.
Which I have a copy, right? I had a copy right here. Damn it, I don't know where it went. I'll have to find my copy, but it's here somewhere.
Yeah. I got a copy over at my girlfriend's house, actually.
Yeah, great stuff.
Great book, yeah.
All right, so you guys are working. You're working with different people. You got a lot to do. You got a lot to retain. You got all this gear available to you to pack in the car and go. Share with the audience some lessons that you've learned in getting prepared for the gig. Obviously, you got to have the right gear for the gig. You got to know how to play the songs. You've got to know what your role in the band is. Share with us some lessons that you've taken away from all these years of performing live, that maybe were surprises to you, or that you didn't anticipate when you got into this.
Yeah, always bring a backup of everything.
You're damn right.
With especially, I learned that lesson with tube amps. It's if you only bring one amp to a gig, and you have the tube blows out, or just the amp blows out because it's 50, 60-year-old amp that you're using on stage. The lesson learned, it's either that or you play through the board. I'd rather have another amp, to be honest with you.
I'll tell you guys a little story that thing exactly happened to me. And I may have mentioned this before. I was in a wedding band for 25 years, and we would do feasts and festivals. So we were doing a festival one summer day, and we were in a band shell, and I had a Bradshaw rig with two 212s and a whole rack gear, and it was all digital stuff. And the weather was not so great, and the band shell power got a surge and blew out my whole rig. I didn't have sound. Yeah. I didn't have anything. The Bradshaw rig pedal board, smoke was coming out of it.
Wow.
It's crazy. Luckily, in the trunk of my car, I had a Fender 210 Vibrolux, because without that, I couldn't play anymore. Yeah, crazy stuff.
You got a similar story, Jay?
A very similar story. And to Jim's point, have two of everything if you can, but certainly two of the things that you have to have. And I was doing a New Year's Eve gig several years ago. I was playing a reasonably expensive hand-wired tube amp, and got 45 minutes into the first set, and it's like, man, I just don't hear myself anymore. I must have lost a monitor or something. And then realized when we finished the song, I play and it's crickets, nothing. And immediately go into survival mode. All right, pull out of the pedal board, go straight into the amp, nothing. Go to the effects return, nothing. And then try a different cable, make sure it's not that cable issue. And, basically try to eliminate the three easiest things I could right off the bat. And I was like, all right, it's an amp issue. And anyway, basically had to play a rock gig plugged directly through a DI box into the board.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that was like, yes, it sounds pretty good out here. Hey.
Clearly, that person doesn't know what tone is.
Like, oh. Fortunately, I had another guitar player in the band who happens to be here tonight. And, he made up a lot of ground for us that night. So yeah, it'd have been a lot worse if I was the only guitar player in the band. Sure, but we made it through. But lesson learned. And the irony is, for years I always took 2 amps, always. And I never needed it, and got lazy. Said, "Nah, I'm not packing all that." And on a big night, a New Year's Eve gig, and there it happens. And it was like a $20 fix. It was some small capacitor or something. It just a little solder popped loose, and
that's all she wrote.
Yeah.
Crazy. Hey, Cameron Brown, nice to join you. Nice for you to join us.
Hey, Cameron.
Cameron Brown is probably one of the best guitar players on the planet.
Yeah, he's pretty
hands down.
Pretty special.
Yeah. Jim, if you've never seen him, YouTube Cameron Brown.
Definitely will.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Cool.
Hey, Jay, you flew by something real quick just a second ago. You said something about when you were describing the guitar and how it was built for you and it felt good while you were playing standing up.
Yeah.
When you're playing at home or in a rehearsal room, are you always playing standing up?
Almost always. I just, we're performing standing up. You're on your feet, you're playing, the ergonomics of everything's a little different standing up versus sitting. So I just, from a stamina standpoint, I try to practice standing up. I feel like it helps me build stamina and makes everything a little more familiar when I'm playing. I try to keep it as close to the real thing as I can when I'm practicing at home, and then when I'm rehearsing, with the group. Honestly, for me, it's easier to play sitting down, but I'm better if I'm playing standing up, and I think it helps on a 4-hour gig to build that endurance. That's me. It may not be the same way for everybody, but for me,
when I was able to stand up for 4 hours, I loved standing up to play. Unfortunately, now I have to sit, but it was good enough for BB King. So I guess sitting is okay.
Right.
But I remember the days. I mean, when I was able to do it, and I had the choice between standing and sitting, I always stood up.
Yeah. I like standing up at gigs myself too, but most of the time when I'm home practicing or learning a tune or something, I'm sitting down at home.
Yep.
It's just easier and I the hardest thing though is that I have trouble with the Les Pauls though and stuff when you're sitting down. It's like you got to put a strap on all the time when you're playing it. But I like Telecasters a lot and Strats when I'm sitting down.
Yeah.
And 335s as well. I like 335s.
They sit on your leg nicely.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And if I'm learning a song like from dead scratch, a lot of times I'll sit in a chair and just so if I'm got a table in front of me where I can hit rewind forward to learn a part, I might sit down for that. But once I've got it, if I'm practicing a whole song, I'm going to try to stand and just, if I've got a rehearsal coming up and we've got 5 new tunes we're learning, that last 10 times I play those 5 tunes, I'm going to be standing, getting them together, just trying to stay in shape, especially right now while nobody's out doing anything, playing.
Yeah.
Do you have, so when you're in a situation and you're going to a rehearsal or you're you're filling in for somebody and you're going straight to a gig, and you've got new songs, new material that you haven't learned before. Do you have a process? What's your process for tackling that material on a short deadline? Do you have a process?
I try to find a chart real quick, that's the first thing, or find a YouTube video nowadays, because nowadays you got, like say you got a song, somebody throws a song at you, and 9 times out of 10, there's usually somebody filming themselves playing it.
Right.
And that helps out big time. And, kind of quickens the process up of, years ago, I used to take out music paper and I used to sit and make notes and, okay, this is the first part, these are the changes and this. Nowadays, and bringing an iPad to a gig, if somebody calls a song out of the blue, and I'm doing I'm in a jam session situation and I've never played with this singer before. And all of a sudden they're calling out Dock of the Bay and they want to sing it in C. Well, I learned it in G. So the iPad helps,
Yeah.
Here's Jay, you answer that question first, and then I have a question that Jay just kind of touched on a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I same thing, man. If I can find somebody playing on YouTube, it certainly helps. I would say one thing, and I don't know where this comes from, but I will typically go through the song and write a form, not notes or anything, but just like, okay, here's the, bridge, verse, chorus, or if there's a pre-chorus, 2 verses. And so I try to, and honestly, man, some of that comes down to if it's a song I know and love and I feel it, it comes more natural. But if it's a song that's maybe not my favorite, I'll forget the order of it. It's not second nature in your head. And so I try to get that form down and then make sure I've got those notes. I just keep them stashed so that if I am in rehearsal, I can reference it really quick, if I've forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it's otherwise just YouTube and Spotify and keep play, rewind until you like it,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. What are your thoughts on music stands and iPads on the stage versus not having them at all?
I'm all for it. Technology is great. And, especially now I'm a guitar player, and when I got to sing, sometimes lyrics are not really easy for me to remember. So if I got to sing a song, sometimes I like to have the lyrics in front of me if it's a new song. If it's something I sang 10,000 times before, then I can turn it off or whatever. But if it's, the technology, I think, especially if you're playing in situations where, like some weddings I've done where you're meeting guys at, on a handshake in the beginning of the thing. Remember the old school screamers, Dave?
Yeah, that's a difference. That's a difference that I have. The difference between what I did and what you've done and what most guys do is I was in a wedding band with the same cast of characters throughout the whole thing.
Right.
Whereas normally when you go through a company, they hire you, and it's usually going to be with people you've never played with before.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's right.
And then sometimes you get that famous, "This is not the band I hired."
Yeah, and that's one of the main reasons why when me and the guys I were with, when we were 15 and 16 years old, we started off as a rock band. And then we did one family wedding, and from there we got the bug and started doing weddings, and we had been doing weddings for the next 25 years and got very big as far as New York wedding bands go. And we switched, we went through a couple different singers, male singers, but the bones of the band were drums, bass, and keyboards were brothers. I went to school with them, so I was the guitar player. Female vocalist married the drummer. So this was a family of 5 people. Then we got another female vocalist and a male vocalist. So we had 7. but that was, those were the only outsiders, and basically they stayed with us almost the whole time.
That could have been a reality show. That sounds like an adventure right there.
Yeah.
Three brothers in one band.
Wow.
How'd you get anything done?
They were great. There was some bickering here and there, like literally here and there. Not very much. I think the oil and water in the band was me and the drummer, and we love each other. And I spoke to him this past week. We're gonna have those three guys on a show in the near future.
Cool.
And we'll discuss all that. We're just trying to get a date together. But at times the oil and water were me and the drummer, because the drummer did not like Van Halen. So when I would play Van Halen licks in my wedding band, he would get very upset. He'd get very upset, and God forbid I show up with a striped Kramer guitar or something, because in a wedding band the guitar player is not very important. So I didn't care what guitar I played. I played whatever I wanted. No one noticed me anyway, unless it was a guitar solo. But mostly in a wedding band, especially an Italian and American wedding band where we're doing a lot of Italian music, it's the accordion and keyboards that's really most important. So I'm actually not even front. I'm standing behind the keyboard player and the singers. So really, you didn't really see me. You didn't see much of me, but you damn well heard me, because I always had a humbucker guitar with some sort of gainy amp. But but I mean, for the most part, I played the right parts at the right time. But I like to sprinkle some Van Halen love in there, and I'd get a drumstick hit on my shoulder, because I was on the hi-hat side, so I'd get with the drumstick.
Hey, how would "Girl from Ipanema" sound like? How would Eddie Van Halen
you know what?
sound like?
We never played that song. We never in the 25 years we never played that.
At last.
That we played every night. At last, we played every night.
How would Eddie approach this?
Jay, what about technology on stage for you, or music stands for you on stage?
I'll tell you, man, I don't sing a lick, so I can't judge people based off the vocal stuff, because I don't have to remember any words. So that piece is out for me. So if I had to remember lyrics, I would probably feel considerably different about it. For the gigs that I've done, by and large, man, it's been a band that's, marketed kind of what Dave was saying. You're all the same cast of characters. You're supposed to have a set list. You're supposed to be ready to go. In that setting, I don't really think it. I think you just appear more polished not to have it sitting out there. But if I was doing what you were doing, Jim, where you're taking requests and transpose music on the fly like that, I think you kind of have to. I mean,
pulling them out of the air type.
They're throwing up stuff, man. I mean, I've been on stages where people ask you to play something. You're like, I don't really know it, but we'll get through a verse and a chorus. If you pull that out at 120 when nobody cares anyway,
Or you get the impossible requests, like they want you to do like Bohemian Rhapsody or something. Right? It's like, what are you kidding me? This is a three-piece band,
I don't want to hear it, because Andy Timmons can do it by himself.
Well, look, I don't think any of us would disagree. If that tip is high enough for that Bohemian Rhapsody from a three-piece band, we're all going to try it.
You're damn right.
We're all trying.
You hand me a couple $100, I'm going to sing it. I'm going to sing it and play it naked.
Money is the inspiration for it all sometimes, certain things, certain gigs,
Yeah. Or how Chuck Berry, pay me first, and then I'll pay me before I play the first note.
Showing up with an attaché case open to the promoter. Okay, fill it up.
I want to kind of go back to a question we were talking about a little while ago. Any other revelations for you that you had as you gained a lot of experience, played a lot of live shows that perhaps you would have never expected to learn? I mean, obviously talking about backups on everything. Anything else that you said, wow, this could be useful advice for somebody one day?
I mean, definitely the backups on everything. I'm a big believer in taking a power conditioner. Number one, it's protecting your gear. A lot of times you're plugged into walls and I mean, obviously without knowing what's on what breaker in a bar, they've got neon signs plugged into the same circuit, TV sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You got a lot of opportunity for like radio interference, in the wiring. And a lot of times you're in clubs that share wiring from adjacent buildings. I just think having a power conditioner, you eliminate a lot of that potential, and it's not a very big item to take with you. It protects your gear, and then it just kind of cleans the power anyway. A lot of times you go in there and it's supposed to be 120 and you're 111, 112. I mean, sometimes it sounds, sometimes not so much. I would say I'm a pretty big believer in that, and a honestly, down here in the South, a fan. I don't think I do any gigs without a fan now.
Have a fan in the back of your tube amp as well.
Yeah.
I have a will you guys gig with will you guys gig with a brand new piece of gear? Something that you haven't taken to a rehearsal room first, something that you haven't tried to work out with a band first.
I've done that before. It's sometimes could be daring, sometimes could be. I always think when you get a piece of equipment, the best test is the road test. To me, because if it doesn't sound good on a job, I mean, how many times have you played stuff at home, guitars and amplifiers, and said, "Wow, this sounds amazing," and then you get out on a job and it's like, I don't know about this thing. This thing ain't that great.
Yeah.
So I think the best thing is to, if you bought that guitar on your way to the gig, and it's set up and it's good to go, or the amplifier, try it out, because that's the best judge that you're going to find is on the job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would say I have I've brought a couple of guitars, and like first time I put them in the band was at a gig. I don't know that I've ever tried that with an amp, just because I've generally been in two guitar situations, and I found that what may sound wonderful at the house by just me may not sound so great mixed with a second guitar. You may lose some intricacies between different parts, and there's frequencies you may walk all over the other guitar, and all of a sudden you get these oscillations in the sound and different things, and it's try to work that out in the practice room before you're getting paid to do it, I guess is that what I would say for that. But if I was by myself, I kind of agree. I wouldn't hesitate as long as I tried it out and liked it, and tried to make it work. Absolutely.
I've never done that with amps, but I worked at Guitar Center, and before that I worked at Manny's Music. And I would just take a guitar off a wall, put it in a gig bag, take it to my gig and play it. And then the next day return the guitar and put it back on the wall.
Yeah.
No problem. Like if a guitar came in that I really liked that I wanted to check out, I'm taking this home tonight. All right, make sure there's no scratches on it. Take it to the gig. Next day, bring it back.
A couple of new people have joined us with some comments. Mike Zaffarano says, always carry a Quilter tone block to back up my tube amps. That's a good suggestion.
Another great little amplifier. Well, they don't make it anymore, but you remember those Crate power blocks?
Yeah.
I know it said Crate. They were like, I don't know, 150 watts. These little things. They were just little transistor amps, but man, they sounded good. That was probably one of the only good things that Crate ever made. But they sounded good, and just to put that in your gig bag, God forbid your amp broke down, you could at least finish the gig and you have some gain, and it sounds real. Sounded real.
Yeah.
I saw somebody say that they had some modded 70s Marshalls that they take on gigs, and they've never failed them. I wish I could find that comment and credit it to the author. Dwight Bailey's here. Hello, Dwight. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Hey, Dwight. I saw that you said hello to me before. Let's get into guitars.
So wait a minute, Guitar Man 45. This is funny, Dave. In response to what you just said, he said, "So is that what they mean by minor blemish?"
You're damn right. Actually, I was careful. If I took something off the shelf that I didn't own, I was super careful with it. And then the next day, I'd put new strings on it. So it's I don't like getting beat up guitars when I buy them unless they're relict or unless they're highly underpriced. Like there's a price drop because there's blemishes. But if I took a guitar home, I made sure that it was in perfect condition, or at least the same condition it was in when I took it out.
Sure, I'm sure you did.
Yeah. Yeah. You had to. I mean, or else you bought that guitar.
Sure. All right, you wanted to see some gear, Dave?
Yeah, let's show some gear. You guys go first, and then I'll talk about this a little later. Jim?
Yeah.
What you got?
I got a 19, I think this is a 92 Les Paul Classic. It started out as a Les Paul Classic. And I did a couple of modifications to this guitar. I converted it into like a Jimmy Page Les Paul.
Oh, cool.
Push-pull knobs. So it goes, it runs in parallel and series. It does like the Peter Green thing in reverse when you got it in the middle. So you can get that out of phase thing. It sounds like a Strat almost like, and it's got, and I also have single coil splits on both pickups.
That's cool. That's a beautiful guitar.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at that top.
Yeah.
Now, I remember you getting that guitar.
Yeah, I bought this, I don't know, I bought this about 8 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, something like that.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yes.
Beautiful flame top.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I see you did you put Grovers on it, or did it have Grovers on it?
No, I put Grovers on it. It had originally Glusons on here.
Mhm.
Glusons.
I see you put a custom shop truss rod cover on it as well.
Yeah. Just so I wanted to look like a 60s. I wanted to have like a 1960s thing. And plus, I always like to take the pick guards off. Both of my Les Pauls have no pick guards. So I like that Dwayne Allman type of look. I don't know why, but I just always liked it. And Peter Green,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Dave Manichetti from Y&T also, that one Les Paul that he's ever had forever.
Yeah.
No pick guard on it, and it's all beat up. Beautiful stuff.
Here's the one I bought with you.
Oh, look at that.
This was a 2008 standard. I also kind of made it look a little more antique-y. I also put one of these truss rod covers on the top end of this as well.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
And I put PAFs in this thing as well. I had Bobby Papa from Tone Masters made me a set of PAFs on this guitar. But this started out as a regular Gibson USA right off the line guitar.
Ooh, I love it.
No
Yeah.
mods to it either. It's just a straight up Les Paul. There's no tricks to this one. I just wanted like one that was like, I always like to have, like a Strat that has no bells and whistles to it. And, like a Les Paul that has no bells and whistles to it, a Telly, just simple stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And here's another Les Paul I got. Hold on. This is another one, and this is the one I bought with you, Dave.
Yeah, old black. I remember that.
Yeah. This one is. Remember, I bought it on April Fool's Day. That's why
I remember that. Yeah, we went. We took a ride together, and you bought that. We went to the bank, got a boatload of money, and bought that guitar.
Yeah. This I also put. I also put the Grovers on too.
Mm-hmm.
On this one too. This is I'm a Grover. I love Grovers on Gibsons.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go wrong with those. And this one is. I also put a set of PAFs in here. And this has a little modification. It goes single coil and reverse. That's it.
Mm-hmm. That looks like Jeff Beck's guitar.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's why I kind of modeled it after that, you know, except it's black ebony instead of oxblood, but close enough, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Black guitars look great on stage.
They do. They certainly do.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else you got, Jim?
Okay. Let me take the headphones off for a sec. Hold on. Okay. This is a utility knife, this guitar. This has got 3 blades in it. Maple neck, as you can see. I put this has got a different tremolo system. The company that did this finish is called Woodtone, WDTONE, and this guitar was built and finished by Tony Barker, and from Barcaster Guitars or Handlebar Guitars. And,
Yeah, I love Tony. Tony's a great guy.
Yeah, and he's
Builds a good
guy.
guitar.
Yes, he does. That's for sure. And he's this guitar is a very great guitar for like what we were talking about, like weddings, club dates. This has got 3 splits on it. So all of these pickups split. And I have a 6-way switch in here as opposed to a 5-way. And on the top, the first setting is the outers, so I can get like that Telecaster thing or the Les Paul thing, you know, like depending upon how I keep the humbucker set. And it does everything. It operates like a Strat. Everything comes out of a Strat bass. So this is definitely a cool guitar. Let me see what else we got here.
Beautiful flame neck on that.
It sure is.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did a phenomenal job on this, and I'll show you the back too on this one.
Oh yeah.
It looks like a watermelon.
Yeah, this was like you know, this is like I kind of built this with my father in mind because my father worked for the Department of Sanitation when I was a kid, and he used to wear green pants all the time. So this was I built this in honor of my dad, actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
Green pants. Yeah.
That's a sweet story.
When he passed on. Yeah. And let's see what else we got here. Oh, hold on. I got to take the phones off for this one. All right. This is the same as the green guitar, except this one has got went for more of like a 57 Strat type look to it, or like an early 60s. It's got like it's almost a brown burst, but there's like a hint. It looks like there's almost like a hint of orange on here a little bit.
Yeah, so it's
Right
like
on
it's a
top.
60s. It's a 60s burst. It's a 3-tone.
Right, like a 59 or an early 60s 3-tone type of burst. And this has got the same setup with the pickups and the 5-way switch. And he even put like an old Scat Pack stick thing on here because Tony, myself, we like cars a lot too. So a couple of my guitars have some car things involved with them too. Because I mean, you know, to me, I love vintage cars, and you know, vintage guitars and cars really go together well.
Yeah, sure.
That's cool.
That looks great.
And I got
Next time you see Tony, tell him I said hello and tell him that I think his guitars are great.
I will. And here's one that Tony built for me too. This is the first one that he built for me, and this is a kind of a copy of the Seymour Duncan Jeff Beck Telecaster.
Yeah.
And this has got a 5-way. I modded it a little different. We, as you can see, I kind of paid tribute to his old Esquire by putting a Strat cut on here. You know, just like almost like a Strat cut, like his like the original Esquire has here. So it's nice on the thing, you know, on the elbow, and it's got a 5-way switch. And when you put it up in the top here, you have just the neck pickup, full humbucker, And then when you go down to the second setting, it turns on both of these pickups. And these are concentric knobs on here, as you can see. Try to
Oh,
get
wow,
a
look at
little
that.
closer.
Yeah.
And the top is for the tone and the bottom is for the volume.
Oh, cool.
So they're wired for both pickups. So this one is for the neck, and that one, this whole set is for the bridge. And
Cool.
when you go to the second setting, that's the single coil on the outsides, and you can, mix and match the volumes and get them to sound like you can almost get like old school kind of broadcaster wiring, like how you used to be able to combine the pots on like the old 52s and stuff like that. Yeah, this guitar is a great guitar. It's got a great rock tone and it's got a great jazz tone.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a real good utility knife.
Did it have a Bigsby on it at one time?
No, but we made it look like because the one that Jeff Beck had.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think he said that maybe Lonnie Mack or somebody owned the body to that, or I don't know. Whoever had the body before Seymour Duncan had it, it originally had a Bigsby on it. Somebody put a Bigsby on it, and he did the. We also copied his the cut down telly bridge on here too.
I see that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I've had people come up to me and actually scream at me. They said to me, "Oh, what are you doing with that old telly?" Because it's even got the. We went for like, this is the first guitar Tony ever built me, so we made it an exact. Like we tried to make it look as exact as we could. I wanted like a 52 telly with
heavily modded.
Yeah, right, like 70s mods. Exactly.
That's cool.
All right.
Yeah, Ben Coons loves that. That's right up your alley, right, Ben?
Yeah. I think that's about it for the guitars. Anything
Awesome.
else you want to show?
Cool.
Your turn, Jay.
Yeah.
Show us some guitars, Jay.
Yeah, man. So you guys saw the nags?
Yeah, let's see that. Let's see the body of that close up.
So can y'all?
Holy flame top.
Yeah, that's a beauty.
Is it aged?
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
relic. It's relic. I have honestly become a fan of relic guitars because when I play these out and I don't have to worry about dinging them on a mic stand or chair or hell, I was putting on a guitar one night and stuck the headstock in a ceiling fan above me on stage. Took a big ding out of the headstock. So things like that I don't have to worry quite as much about. And, but I've become a fan of relic guitars. But I really do love that guitar. Here's another one. It's a PRS Vela. I don't know if you guys can see.
Wow, that's cool.
Now, is that an S2 core or is that a custom shop one?
It's just the original series of the Velas, which I guess that's categorized as an S2. I'm not sure to be. It's not a custom shop guitar.
Mm-hmm.
But it's it's super light. It's very different than anything else I have. It looks really cool on stage under lights because it's got that nice shimmer to it. It's hard to see on YouTube, but it's got a lot more metal flake in it than a typical gold top. I've had a few different gold tops. This one's got a lot more flake in it, and it, even down to the neck, it's just it's just a very rich color, and it's just not a very expensive guitar as far as expensive guitars go, and plays great. It's comfortable, sounds cool, looks cool.
You're not the first person to say that about a Vela either.
Really?
Yeah, Dennis, my buddy Dennis has one, and he's got all private stock PRS, and he has one of those, just a regular core version S2 Vela in blue, and he loves it. He can't say enough good things about it.
Yeah, and to your question earlier, this is one of the ones that I played in a gig before I ever took it to practice. I thought it was so cool. I played probably half a gig with it, and
let's see that. I want to see that pickup configuration.
That's cool.
Yeah.
go.
So it's a hum in the back and a mini hum in the neck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I actually don't think this is a full hum. I would have to look it up, but there's.
It's more Gretsch. It's more Gretsch not Hylatron.
Filtertron.
It's like more like a Filtertron. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the size of a humbucker, but I don't think it's officially, technically a humbucker. And so you get just a little different sound out of it, and I don't know, I would guess this guitar weighs it's probably close to 6 pounds. So it's just very comfortable to play. Sounds different. It's cool. Stays in tune. I'm a stickler for that. I got this guitar a couple years ago. It's a Friedman vintage T, and it was my first, first time delving into the world of a relic guitar, and I was honestly blown away. I'd wanted a Pelham Blue guitar, and I'd wanted a 72 Telly, basically set like that kind of setup, where it's more like a Les Paul configuration, I guess is the best way to describe it. And this guitar is so comfortable to play and sits so well in the mix. It's just really, it's been a really good. I've been really happy with this guitar. It cuts really nice. The pickups are tasteful. Comfortable neck, fast neck, and because it's relic, it's satin on the back, so it plays pretty fast. And in a hot club where air conditioning is not great, it doesn't get all sticky and greasy feeling. So, pretty nice guitar. This is basically a Huber Krautster.
Sweet.
Essentially a junior.
Yeah, nice.
Single pickup, volume tone. It's got a slight tummy cut. I don't know if that comes through. Try to hit the light.
Yeah, I can see
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
The whole thing is a satin finish. I guess you kind of call it a satin open pore, and it's also very comfortable to play. And then I don't know if you can see how the neck joint is.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Very unique. If you guys can see that, so it's very easy to play up here. Also very comfortable guitar, not super heavy, kind of a workhorse. I don't want to call it a one-trick pony, but if you got a rock gig, it's hard to beat this guitar. Most of these are opaque tops, like black, copper, gold, maybe a silver or blue. And I've seen one or two of these on the forums, like on Reverb and on forums. And I just happened to see this one. And, it's not super flamed or figured, but it's got a little bit that pops out occasionally. So it's somewhat understated. It's just a cool guitar. And
what's the pickup?
So Huber puts in these H. Housel pickups.
Okay.
And this one was changed out, and I'm gonna have to look. I made a note because I knew I would forget exactly what it was. So pardon me while I retrieve my notes here, because I cannot remember. I bought it secondhand, and well, I thought I made a note of it. Anyway, I honestly, I don't remember what it is, but it sounds good. It's in that PAF category. It's nothing super hot or anything. It's pretty low output. I want to say it was like 7.9. So it's not super hot, but it sounds pretty good through a gained up amp. You mentioned earlier about a black guitar looking good on stage. So I was doing a project and looking at some of our photos from a gig, and so one of the photos was black and white, and everything was very kind of monochromatic. And there I was with that junior that was that amber top, and it just really stood out. And I'm like, I have to get a black guitar. And I had been longing for one of these. This is a Nags Kanai Doug Rappaport model. It's got his kind of own special sauce pickups that are Duncan's volume tone with a kill switch, which is tons of fun. Otherwise, typical configuration. It's also, I don't know if you can see, but it's a satin finish.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say it's a little more delicate from a scratching and scuffing standpoint, but you can really kind of get a sense of the cut they do on the back that just adds to some comfort. Awesome playing guitar. Very, very comfortable to play, a little over 8 pounds, so not super light, but they've got a unique bridge, and I think there's something in this, man, that it works, or at least it worked for me. But you hate to say, like, it sounds so shallow that you want to look cool on stage, but you're up there to entertain, so you kind of need to look cool on stage. So the black guitar it really stood out to me from a stage lighting standpoint and all. It made a difference, and so that's really why I jumped on. I was interested in this guitar anyway, and worked out a trade with somebody for it, and I think it's worked out for both of us. And the last thing I have is,
do I know that person?
What's that?
Do I know that person?
The last thing I have is the first Nags I bought. This is a Steve Stevens. It's the SSC, Nags SSC.
Best for
And
last.
I think it's called like California Sunsets, the color or something.
That's
Nice top. This is more, in my opinion, their version. You can see the bridge and tailpiece is different. It's got Steve Stevens kind of personal, I guess, pickups in it. Otherwise, very much Les Paul DNA. It's a little, I don't know if you can tell, but the body's thicker than the typical Kanai's. It's a good bit heavier as well. There's a lot more bottom end in this guitar than the Kanai. And for me, that can be good and bad. Everybody doesn't want their tone to be too bright. I tend to have a darker tone anyway. And so sometimes I have to be careful with this, that, I'm sitting proper in the mix. But it's also a relic guitar. It's not overly relic. And then some of the pickup relicing is courtesy of my sweat. So, it's a light relic, but I found a deal on it on Reverb, I think, and decided to pull the trigger. Glad I did, and it's kind of led me down this Nags path. I really think they make great guitars. So that's it for my show and tell.
That's beautiful.
I'm going to tell a story. Hold that guitar up again, Jay. I'm going to tell a story about this guitar, and
Yeah.
I hope you don't mind. Hey, the Raz is here. Hey, Raz. Jay and I were on a session together in October, and this is one of the guitars that he brought. I brought a very popular single cut, more traditional guitar to that session, and after he laid down his first track with that guitar, it was so great harmonically where it was sitting in the mix that I did all my parts with that guitar too, and it was really just a great sounding, great playing guitar, and sounded very different. Leaving your hands coming into mine and then leaving my hands back into yours, it was just a very different sounding instrument. But I was so impressed with that guitar.
Yeah, and to your point about sounding different in hands, I mean, I think we all know that, but I think, to me, a good guitar should give allow the player to kind of put their tone imprint on it, I suppose. And I mean, I all these, I would say, the one I showed earlier, this one I've just fallen in love with, and it's just so comfortable for me. You know, and it's got some relicking on the neck. It's just, shoot, about half of that I probably did in a month, to be honest with you. It's super comfortable. I can't say enough good things about them.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Very nice.
Ty, do you have anything to show?
Well, I mean, we were talking about playing gigs and being as versatile and as comfortable as we could, and so I brought a really, really versatile guitar. Jim used the word utility. Yeah, I'll show this one. This is a John Suhr modern custom. I got this guitar in 2015, and I was looking for. I'm a single cut player. I was looking for something very different, something that I could sit with for a long period of time, do a lot of different type of things with. This guitar is super cool, 5-way switch. It's got a it'll split the neck humbucker, and it's got with this pot here, and it's got a blower switch here that'll go straight to the bridge and give you all the get up and go you need. This guitar always stays in tune. Just a super guitar. I love it. It's got a great David Nesdahl setup on it.
Yeah, man.
I love that guitar. I would say that if I don't know if there's a such thing as a Swiss Army knife. I know that we are all in search of it, but from all the ones that I have, all the guitars I have, this probably comes the closest of being the most versatile. It's a 24 fret guitar, which was a different playing experience for me, especially in this neck position, because coming from that traditional single cut guitar, I like the warmth of that neck pickup, and I like the way I use that neck pickup for solos, especially above the 12th fret. This guitar sounds a little different because of where the pickup placement is on this 24 fret guitar. But you know what? It was warm enough for the way in which I intended to use this guitar when I acquired it, and it has never failed in any way whatsoever. It's just a brilliant instrument.
I like the finish on it.
Oh man, it's a nitro finish. It's a basswood body. It's a maple top, nothing fancy on the top.
Yeah.
A Godot 510 bridge, Suhr pickups, and it's pretty close to perfect. And it's a guitar that you can take on a lot of different type of gigs, like we've been talking about tonight. Jay was talking about how he uses a volume knob to get around tonally, to get some different types of things done. And Jim was talking about the importance of versatility with the instrument, and I couldn't agree more. And that's a good one. That's a really, really good one. We talked a little bit about Suhr guitars last week. Jay Hannon mentioned, that he had looked around at some Suhrs at the encouragement of Cameron, and they will not disappoint. They're great.
Wow, that's cool. Very cool guitar. I remember liking that guitar. Well, contrary to you guys, I only have one guitar, and this is it. I'll tell you about this guitar. This guitar actually belongs to a buddy of mine who paints all my Van Halen guitars and does some really cool stuff. And he's a good builder, and he's my partner in the Guitar Whisperer. This guitar was the bones of it is from an Orville made in Japan. It's like a Gibson style guitar, but I mean the headstock is exactly correct. Everything is correct on this guitar, and he turned it into the Fool, which he painted, and reshape the neck to make it feel like an amazing early 60s SG, and put a really good set of patent pending Grovers on it, and put an American ABR on it with nylon saddles and a good set of Gibson pickups on it, and the trapeze right here that he pretty much built to make it look like Eric's guitar. It's painted, and when you look at it, when you look at it from far, it just looks like like any old Joe Schmo. Because a lot of people, you can see these anywhere. If you look on Reverb, I think there's 4 of them on Reverb now. But when you look closely at it, this guitar is painted exactly like the original one was. You can see all the paintbrush strokes and all the little, every little nuance that you would see, because Nick, my buddy Nick, went to the Met when this guitar was there with the Van Halen guitar this past fall, and took as many pictures as he could possibly take of the original, down to every brush stroke, and created this guitar out of it. And this is another guitar that just sounds really great. It's kind of late to be playing loud. I'll give you the clean sound. Bridge pickup. It sounds great. It's a great sounding guitar. If it was a little earlier, I'd crank up the gain and put a pedal on, and I'd do one of these. Do one of those things, but it's a little late here. But that's this guitar, my only guitar that I own, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
You know what I like about that guitar, Dave, is that it doesn't have any of the Todd Rundgren remodifications on it. It's basically built exactly like the old. Because I remember the one giveaway is Todd Rundgren put black trim rings on that later on.
Right.
This has got the original like day glow paint on the trim rings.
Also, when Rundgren owned it, he had a white truss rod cover on it, where this one's painted like it was with Clapton.
Yeah.
That's an incredible replica.
It's really good. Now, it like I said, it belongs to my buddy Nick, but I think it's going to belong to me. I'm not sure. We're working on some sort of deal, but I don't know yet. I'm on the fence. It's a really great guitar, really great guitar.
William Errol DeBose asks, audience, does anyone have any stories dealing with Jackson's custom shop?
I mean, Jackson Charvel is the same thing. Me personally, I haven't. Although I've owned Charvel custom shop Charvel guitars, and they're all fantastic. But my buddy Dennis, at one point a few years ago, ordered a Charvel custom shop Charvel with a painted flame graphic. The blue and orange flames that are painted on. Yeah, like the original ones from the early '80s. Yeah, the hot rod flames. Mm-hmm. It took him 9 months to get. And when he got it, the neck moved so much that it was like the neck was in the witness protection plan. It moved back and forth. It was crazy. It wasn't stable at all. But then he sent it back and got another neck for it, and it was fine. But that was the only problem.
I've owned a Jackson Soloist out of the custom shop, and I've also owned a couple of Dinkies. Out of the custom shop, nothing but positive experiences from those products. Loved them. Loved all those guitars. I've had a couple of custom shop Charvels. Everyone has just been terrific guitars. Now, I have never owned one of the early '80s, what they call the San Dimas, the original San Dimas Charvels, but nothing but positive experiences from me.
I have owned an early '80s. In fact, I may have a picture of it. If you just give me 1 second, I'll show you a photo of it. It was one of the heaviest guitars I've ever played in my life because it was a one-piece bird's eye maple body, extremely heavy, and it was modded. It had one humbucker in it, but when I got it, it had 2 single coils and a humbucker in it. Almost there. Give me 1 second, guys. Here we go. Yeah, here's the guitar. Let's see if I can get this to work.
Wow, that's a cool finish.
Painted
Oh, yeah.
headstock.
Yeah.
Painted headstock, 21 frets. Original Floyd, no fine tuners.
And the 3 switches, right?
Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah.
that was the guitar. And my buddy Lenny Camp, who is he was in the chat. I'm not sure if he still is. He gave me this guitar years and years and years ago, and I wish I still had it, but I had sold it to get something that I really, really wanted. I didn't have that many guitars at the time, and something that I really needed and wanted. I sold this for it. I should have kept it, but everyone makes mistakes.
William says, I want the Robin Crosby upside down Firebird with the Jackson reverse headstock. Yeah, those were awesome guitars.
Yeah, beautiful.
Amazing guitars. And, versions of those guitars pop up every so often on Reverb. So just keep checking Reverb. I saw one pop up within the last, I had to be the last four months.
I see them on Facebook. There's a couple guys that show pictures of these things. There's one guy that actually owns Robin's guitar he posts pictures of it on Facebook from time to time.
Janice Lawless says, hello, Jim Moran.
Hello, Janice.
Yeah, there used to be a really good website. I've not seen it up in a year or so now. But there used to be a really good website that documented a lot of these older celebrity-owned Jackson Charvel guitars. And I think the publisher of that site owned several of the early Jackson Vs and King Vs that Robin had in his collection at one time.
Mm-hmm. Pretty crazy.
What was the one that Vinnie Vincent played?
He had his own like custom V model with Jackson. It was a
crazy guitar.
It was like an offset double V kind of thing.
A double V. It was like a V, then the different outline on it, but it was like 3D almost. Well, it was definitely 3D, but I mean, it was weird.
He played the heck out of it, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
and now she plays the heck out of it.
He could play that guitar.
No speed bumps on that guitar, that's for sure, right?
No. So, anyone in the chat have any questions for these fine gentlemen here with us tonight? If you do, we'll be happy. We're going to stick around for a couple more minutes. Again, if anyone feels like dipping into the virtual tip jar, it's PayPal or Venmo at dnrwb5150@aol.com. And there it is right there in case anyone is feeling generous. Again, it's not mandatory, but if you feel like helping us out, that would be awesome. And we thank you.
Any gear acquisitions for you guys in the near future? Is there anything that you're shopping for, looking for, feel like you might need? What do you think the next purchase or pursuit is?
I want a 335.
Oh yeah, especially after hearing Dave's.
That guitar is so special.
Yeah.
So special. I first of all, I have to thank Tom Bukovac for the inspiration for me getting this guitar. Those of you who don't know who Tom Bukovac is, he is probably the most successful session guy in Nashville. He is on everybody's record. And he's been on tours. The last tour he was on was with Joe Walsh in 2017. He also does a 15-minute lesson video every day called Homeschooling. And he has been a huge, huge inspiration of my playing as of late. And again, thanks to Tom Bukovac for the inspiration behind me getting a 335.
He certainly publishes great content. What about for you, Jay? What's on the pursuit for you?
I would say the thing I'm looking at right now is I had a loop switcher, like a programmable loop switcher for my pedal board that I used for years in a cover band. And it just enabled me to make quick switches on the fly to different tones. If I got so adventurous, I could set up our set list and just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you know, so if you're playing different things, it give you the option to really nail some tones a little more accurately without having to tap dance in songs. Just hit one switch and you're done. And got rid of it because I just didn't need it for a while. And now looking at a project that might need something again. And so I'm kind of weighing some different loop switchers now to use MIDI or not to use MIDI. I only have one pedal of my board that uses MIDI now. It's the Source Audio Collider. It's like a combination reverb and delay. But you can program in different delays and stuff. So I could program in a long delay for one song or a short delay for another or whatever, which would be nice to just make it one easy step. It's kind of looking at that, but want to keep it on a medium-sized board. Don't want to get too big. Keep it simple as far as getting in and out of a gig.
What do you think about some of these really high-tech multifunctional pedals, say like the Eventide H9? Are you guys using anything like that?
Not me.
Yeah, I had one, and I might have used 4 settings live, and the other 4,000 settings it would do. I played through maybe 50 of them at home, and would do some cool stuff, but I never got deep enough to get a lot of all those settings, and that's what I was thinking. If I can just find something with maybe 4 to 6 reverb and delay settings or a mixture of them, that's really all I needed. And so that's why I ended up settling on that Collider. Just kind of does what I need.
It's cool.
Yeah.
I use an H9. I have that rig right behind me is my big rig. It's a wet, dry, wet rig. And I have an H9 sitting on top of one of the heads, and I use it for some delay patches. But I've never actually stepped on it. So I don't know that I would actually use one in a live situation unless I had a switcher in front. So because that pedal is extremely it breaks easy. It's plastic. I mean, the casing is metal, but the actual knob is plastic and it breaks very easy. So it's you got to be very careful. And you know when you're gigging, you're in battle mode. You're not going to be dainty with your pedals.
Mm-mm.
You're not going to be dainty with your guitars. You're not going to be dainty with your amp. You know, you're in a battle. Things are going to happen, and when you have pedals like that can be broken pretty easy, and they're $500 for the core version and $700 for the fully with all the effects in it. Yeah. You don't want to break that thing, So it's I don't know that the normal cat would use one live unless he's got a pedal board with a switching, with on-off switches, true bypass on-off switches in the front.
Yeah.
I've used an H9 Live for years, but I use it primarily for a very specific stereo function, and because I use it that way, I'm not stomping on it a ton. whereas the Time Factor, which is my all-time favorite delay pedal to use live, has been to war, and it has taken a beating. It's not surviving right now. But I was trying to think, golly, I can't even imagine how many times I must have stepped on that putt.
Yeah.
And I really can't imagine it. And maybe a switcher like Jay was talking about with some MIDI functionality, maybe something I need to look at moving forward. We got a couple new people that have joined us. Jeff David, he says his wish list would be an EVH 5150 EL34 half stack. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, good sounding out.
Amanda Coombs is here. Hello, Amanda. There was one more comment I wanted to get to. There was a question. Would a carbon fiber cabinet cause issues with an amp's sound?
I don't think it would cause issues. It'll definitely sound different than a wooden cabinet. I don't think it would be issues. It would just sound different. That's all. I think it would be a brick shit house. It ain't breaking, but and it'd be heavy as hell. But I don't think it would sound bad.
To me, nothing beats pine. I love pine.
Pine is great. These pine cabinets, like this tweed I have here, sounds incredible. Yeah. I also, if you're going to use a Marshall 412, birch is the way to go. I love birch. WM Errol DeBose, U.S. Air Force retired, says Larry Mitchell uses an Eventide H9 and it sounds great. That it does, but he's never turning it on and off. He uses the switching system via MIDI in his fractal audio to switch patches on that. So it's going to stay in great condition because his foot is never stomping on it.
Ben says he likes birch. I think most of my cabinets are made of birch. I think, and I tend to be a head cab guy too. Just for the record. But yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of combos, and then I just unloaded a combo that I wasn't using anymore to actually purchase the head version of that amp. I mean, there's always room for one more piece of gear, right?
There's always room for Jello. That's awesome.
But it is interesting how we have become, it's become a combo world, right? I mean, it's becoming combos, and even, head cab guys that are using small heads and that type of thing. We're buying small cabinets, to go along with those, just getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like what you were saying before about the smaller amps, you're walking into that club in New York City with the 412, you're pushing a 412, wheeling in a 412 Marshall and a top. Guys are going to tell you, they're going to automatically think you're loud. Automatically.
Yeah. The only guy on the planet that can get away with that is Osnoy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He can get away with it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No one's telling him to turn down in New York City anyway.
Yeah.
I've not used a 412 cabinet with the exception of outdoor gigs or bigger rooms like House of Blues size rooms. I've not used a 412 cabinet like that in a dozen years at least. Yeah. The 212 box is what I like, but even seeing 212s come in to some of those rooms as we were talking about earlier, that can send a shockwave.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
It's the truth.
I built what do you call it? I have a 67 drip edge basement that I had a friend of mine build a cabinet, small cabinet, a 112 side with no port on the back, just a straight,
Close back.
Yeah. Just so like more like rocky. I was doing some things that were like a little more rocky, a little old school classic rock. So I wanted to move a little more air with the closed back cabinet. I think the whole thing with the tone with amplifiers is also what we also forget is that's why a lot of guitar players play loud is because the movement of air really has a lot to do with it. You know what I mean? It's like that's what really makes the sound. You listen to like guys like Tony Iommi or any of these guys that play heavy metal, it's the movement of air, or it's like that thunderous bottom end that you get out of a Marshall or any modern cabinet. That's where it's all about the movement of air to me. That's how I feel about it.
What do you guys prefer on stage, in-ears or monitors?
I like monitor. I like old school monitors myself.
Me too.
Yeah.
Same here. I'm not good with in-ears. I have the worst tinnitus in the world to begin with. And in-ears, God forbid the sound guy screws up and has a volume too high, you're done.
Yeah.
So monitors here.
Or
I like stage volume. I don't like this newfangled thing where no amps, no volume on the stage. I don't like it. I don't believe in it. I don't like it. It's not rock and roll.
Yeah,
I like amps and monitors.
I don't feel like I'm playing music like that. Like we're in this like isolated like zone almost. Like I don't feel like I'm playing with a band when I got in-ears in, and I just feel like I'm laying down a track or something. It doesn't feel like a live performance to me.
No, I hear you about the air, and certainly come from that school.
Yeah.
Gabriel Tone Guitar says can't play rock with in-ears. Yeah,
it's very tough.
Sometimes you can't.
It's very tough to do that. It's very tough to play any gig with in-ears. It just is what it is. WM Errol DeBose, U.S. Air Force, retired, says, long live Gary Richrath. Absolutely far underrated, just like Lifeson and Steve Stevens, so underrated. I will tell you one thing about Gary Richrath. He is the reason why I have the Les Paul that's sitting right back there. He is the guy that I first saw with a Les Paul, and I said, I want that guitar. And that's why I have a Les Paul.
That's cool. Ben's approach, man, they were just they were hitting the gas with stage volume and running vocals through the PA. Yeah, that's cool. That's one way to do it.
Yeah. Any last questions, Ty?
No. What are we done? What advice would you give a guy that comes up to you and says, "Hey, I want to go and play out. Jim, I want to come to one of your jams on Monday night." Or Jay, how do I find a band to play in like you do? What do you say to that guy to give him an encouraging step forward?
Make sure you got a job.
Yeah. in Jim's defense, he'd say, "Come back on Sunday night." Monday night's not where you want to be if you want to start. The Monday night jam is a very pro jam. It is like a bunch of musicians that are fully seasoned and have never played with each other before and sound like they've been rehearsing for 30 years.
Cool.
Everybody is good. And even when it's not so good, it's really good.
Yeah.
Just is what it is. That is a pro jam. And if you are new to that, just do yourself a favor and come and watch.
Right.
And then come back on like a Sunday night where it's a little less, it's less nerve-wracking.
Okay, so so maybe the jam's not right, but the guy comes to you and he says, "Hey, I want to take a step forward. I want to find a band to play with. What kind of advice can you give me? How do I take that step forward? What do you tell them?
I say networking is the main thing. You got to find people that are like-minded, that are into the same kind of. If you're gonna go, it depends on how you're gonna go. If you're gonna go the traditional band route, find guys that are like-minded and are on the same page and like the same styles of music that you enjoy. And if you guys, and then you also, you got to find guys that you can get along with too. That's it. As well as playing with guys, there's a lot of hurdles. I mean, if you're going to get into a band situation, you got to have guys that, like, if you go out on the road with, that you can actually like after the gig, so that's, or spend 10 hours in a van or a bus with, or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I too also would like open mic nights and all, get around and listen to some of the other local talent, make an introduction, visit the local music stores. There's always people coming in and out there. You'll figure out pretty quick who the players are in town. Ask questions.
Yeah. I'd say the rehearsal studios too, because they always have, every rehearsal studios has always got a billboard. And years ago, I mean, we used to find gigs in like all the trade papers too.
That's right.
Good Times Magazine or the Village Voice or any of those old school publications. You would find lots of gigs or auditions or just any kind of situation, recording projects. I just rehearsed with these guys. We were getting together before the pandemic, and what a great bunch of guys. I'm working with this Kenny Chesney tribute band, and working with this other guitar player, Joe DeMeo, and these guys are all like top-notch guys. And
Joe's another one of those guitar players. He's one of the best guitar players on Long Island.
Yeah,
he's technically amazing, a sweetheart of a guy, very intimidating looking. He's a big guy, burly guy, and then he plays guitar, and then you talk to him, and you're like, oh, what a teddy bear. Great guy.
Yeah, so that
cool.
band's good. That band's going to be hitting after the pandemic, and we're just like, everybody's just like, right now we're all just like learning our parts and rehearsing. So that's going to be a fun thing that I'm going to get into as I go forward. After once we start, they turn the faucet on around here and we start working again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, this has been great. So much good information. Thank you for sharing your time with us. Thank you for sharing so much of your gear with us, how you approach the way you do, the way you do what you do. Thank you for sharing that with all of us.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Man, we enjoyed it. Had a great time.
Yeah. I want to thank everyone in the chat for being here week after week.
Yes, thank you.
And sticking around with us and having great comments and being part of it. I want to thank Jim Moran for coming on, and Jay Ellis. You guys with your busy schedule and you have time to come see us. Haha.
Yeah, we're all busy now. Right?
Yeah, it was a pleasure to have you guys on and share your experiences with us and all the cool gear and the stories. And maybe we'll have you guys on in the future again. I'd love to do a part 2.
Yes,
absolutely.
That would be awesome.
Sean Zimmerman's already saying that he wishes it would last longer. It seemed like we just started.
I know.
Thank you, Sean. And Larry Mitchell is here. Hello, Larry.
Hey, Larry. How are you?
Larry.
How are you? So,
music therapy. Music therapy's here.
Oh, hello, music therapy, Laz. Sorry that we're ending at 10:18. We're actually 18 minutes late, but check us out if you have time. Check it out from the beginning. It was a pretty good show. I enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too.
This Monday, please catch us this Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern when we're going to have Johnny Highland as our guest.
Wow.
That's going to be pretty insane. And then Thursday, we have Andy Alador. as our guest, and we'll be discussing his book, Texas Flood, the story of Stevie Ray Vaughan. And I'm sure he'll be talking music and guitars and amps and stuff, and the road and playing with Dickie Betts and playing with Jimi Hendrix's band, the Band of Gypsies, and all kinds of stuff like that. And also with Double Trouble. He's played and recorded with Double Trouble. And we in the episodes coming up, we have lots of great guests. Just stick around. If you haven't subscribed to the David Nesdall channel, please do, and hit that bell so you can get all the alerts. And I think that's pretty much it. Ty, as always, thank you so much for being an amazing co-host and doing this thing with me. I couldn't do this without you.
Dave, always a pleasure to be here, and thank you, Jay and Jim.
Yeah,
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Guys, stick around after we end. Don't hang up. And on that note,